The sage has no mind of his own. He is aware of the needs of others. I am good to people who are good. I am also good to people who are not good, because virtue is goodness. I have faith in people who are faithful. I also have faith in people who are not faithful, because virtue is faithfulness. The sage is shy and humble. To the world, he seems confusing. Others look to him and listen. He behaves like a little child. What makes a good person? This is a pretty tricky question to answer, actually. Not least because it's kind of hard to get everyone to agree on what exactly a good person is. Obviously, there are going to be as many different opinions about this as there are people in the world. However, in this video, we are going to look at this question through the lens of Taoism, and more specifically, what is written in the Tao Te Ching, chapter 49. Now, in Taoism in general, we usually try to be pretty careful about labeling things as good and bad, because we understand that our limited perspectives are terribly inadequate for ascertaining the goodness or badness of most things. We respect the fact that people and issues are complex and far-reaching, and that we see only the tiniest sliver of truth when we look at anything, because of the limitations of what we can understand. However, we cannot say that Lao Tzu, the alleged author of the Tao Te Ching, didn't recommend the cultivation of certain attributes over others. The Tao Te Ching is packed full of advice on how we ought to act, but more importantly, how we ought to become if we want to maximize our own peace as well as our positive impact on the world. Looking at the first few lines, we are given a clue as to how Lao Tzu might have described a quote-unquote good person. The sage has no mind of his own. He is aware of the needs of others. One of the main principles of Taoism is the cultivation of the ability to let go of the self and the desires of the self, and to embrace oneness with all things. But what does it mean to embrace oneness with other people? Does this mean that we take their opinions and attitudes as our own? Do we strive to copy and emulate them? It may be easy to mistake the emulation of others as oneness with others, but this is not true. In fact, it is not only untrue, but impossible. Let's follow this trail of logic to where the emulation of others would lead. If the master seeks oneness with all people, and if emulation is oneness, then the master must seek to emulate all people. However, most people are not currently in a state of oneness with all things, but in a state of separation. Therefore, if the master was to seek to attain oneness by emulating all people, the emulation of many of these people would force him to emulate a state of separation. Obviously, separation and oneness cannot coexist. Therefore, we must deduce that emulation is not the answer. Fortunately, the answer is found right here in the chapter. He is aware of the needs of others. The master achieves oneness with others not by taking on their attitudes and attributes as his own, but by taking their needs as his own. He makes their needs just as important as his. To him, they become one and the same. His interests are conflated with their interests. This is the practical application of oneness. This is also the definition of love in its purest and truest sense. To have true love for another person is to make their needs your needs. It is to give them what they need the most, even when they deserve it the least, at great personal cost if necessary. The master also understands the principle of Wu Wei, or effortless action, and employs it in the meeting of his needs and the needs of others. He is well acquainted with intuition, and follows intuition to know what others' needs are and how to meet them. The goal is not to make a martyr of yourself. It is to arrive at a state of mind where you see the needs of all others as being just as important as your own. The master understands that he will not be able to meet every need, but he also knows that where there is a need he is able to meet, he will do so without hesitation. He does this regardless of whether or not he will be paid back for it, or whether the person seems to deserve it. He may observe a difference in types of people, but he does not treat them with any less care or goodness as a result of these differences. He even puts people in a place of trust that they may not seem to deserve. He understands that extending trust to people often has the effect of helping them to become more trustworthy. He is not ignorant of the bad in people, but he looks for the good. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you want to talk more about this kind of thing, come hop into my Discord. We would love to have you in our discussions. We talk about Taoism and break down chapters of the Tao Te Ching every day. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow for chapter 50. Peace and blessings.